Welcome, everyone. Thank you for watching this podcast episode. We have Psycholand with us today. And as you see, Mr. Kane, who reminds me of a James Bond villain, actually, because he's got the eye patch.
Well, it's a character that I play in Psycholand. I'm basically a butt pirate.
So, Psycholand is a heavy metal industrial rock alternative band, and they're from USA, Australia, and Wales.
Mhm.
And they're similar to music is like Nine Inch Nails, Rob Zombie, Static X, and anybody who knows System of a Down
Right.
and Slipknot. We all know what type of music they sing. Uh, so Mr. Kane is from California, USA. He needs the vocals, guitars, symphonic hullabaloo, and he's got bipolar. He's a reluctant carnivore, which that is the way we should go.
Yeah.
But there's another member of his band is Mr. Severe, who's in Queensland, Australia. Ronan, who's from Wales, UK. He's guitars and diabolical deeds. Mr. Severe, of course, is drums. And the bassist, bass guitar, is from Parts Unknown. But we have Mr. Kane here today.
Good week.
Now,
Thank you for having me.
Psycholand was formed in 2020 by two mental illness survivors living oceans apart as a way to make it through the isolation and misery of the COVID pandemic. And you may not believe this, but they literally have songs called Christmas on Uranus. Sorry, guys, I'm not saying Uranus. Psy-
Well, that's
Psycholand.
actually how it's pronounced, but because of the lyrical content of the song.
Yeah. Something wicked this way comes. People are people and Halloween themed song. So welcome, Mr. Kane, to the Onstage podcast. Really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. What inspired the name Psycholand for your band? And go back to beginning. What made you want to get into music?
Oh God, that goes all the way back to I was like 5 years old. I growing up. I don't know. It just, I know everybody is drawn to music, but there was just something about it that every time I performed in some way, even if I was just singing like a little kid singing around the house, singing Kenny Rogers or whatever, just the hairs would stand up on the back of my head, just no matter what. And I've always been drawn to not only music in general, but performing. Um, it's been like my first instrument was a penny whistle. So and I went I remember I was probably like 5 or 6 years old. I would walk up and down the street playing penny, like I would stop in front of someone's house and start playing hot cross buns. Then I'd go next door to the next house and play hot cross, like standing on the sidewalk, performing for nobody was there, but I was hoping that they would hear and be impressed and all that. So I've always been kind of a natural performer of sorts. Moved on to high school, junior high and high school band. Played saxophone, doing that, and I utterly hated it. I thought it was a cool instrument, but the woodwind, the reed vibrations always got to me. So that lasted a couple of years, but I quit band to take up drums because that's what I really wanted to play. Was high school marching band drums, and they were all full up. So I said, "To heck with it," and I quit. Got a drum set, double bass, all that stuff, and played for about 3 years. And I was horrible at it. I was terrible. I played as much as I could. I tried so hard, and I could not keep a beat to save my life. So, a friend of mine that I was jamming with, he was very unimpressed.
Hmm.
um, and so he invited me to. He had heard me sing like Pantera and Slayer and things like that. This is back when I was 15, I think, 15 or 16. And so I could belt all that stuff out. And he was like, why don't you come try out for our band? And I had never considered being a singer before. The thought scared the heck out of me. big time. I wanted to be the guy in the back of the band, hidden by all the drums. I didn't want people to look at me, so that was the type of person I was for a long time. And so I thought about it for a while, and every time I would walk to school when I was younger, I would wear a pair of headphones and just sing, to distract myself from the monotony of the long walk. And so my voice was pretty in shape, and so I tried out, got the gig, and that's with that band. That was the first time I played live, and yeah, man, I mean, just performing, singing, all of that is just something that's always I've always been drawn to it. And what I like about doing music the most, singing and all that, is basically I get paid to express myself, which I really love. It's at the end of the day, no matter how horrible the day is, you still have that to go home to. So I think I got a little off track there, but I hope I answered your question. Where did Psycholand come from? That Psycholand is the nickname that I gave to Facebook for quite a while. Because I've always found the way people treat each other on the internet to be just utterly insane. A lot of mob mentality and things like that. And so after a while, I just started calling Facebook Psycholand, because it was just for the longest time. This is around the time where everything started becoming more and more of a free for all. People started becoming more and more outraged, just instantly and quickly and all that. And for the younger viewers, trust me, there was a time on Facebook where people didn't try to beat each other up. And around the time that people did, I started just calling it Psycholand. And eventually I branched that out to other social media sites. But yeah, we're basically named after Facebook.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think Zuckerberg could come after you and say you can't name a band Facebook.
Yeah, well, I'm not too fond of Zuckerberg at the moment, among a lot of other people having to do with politics and everything. But I will not get into that, because Psycholand, we try really hard to not express political views. That being said, we did do a political song, our rendition of America by Rammstein, and we did that actually in response to Roe v. Wade getting overturned, because we were all like really angry about that.
Wow, yeah, that's quite a story. Did you have a good relationship with your parents, your siblings?
Yeah, for the most part. With my father, we were kind of distant. I was always kind of closer to my mother than my father. My father and I were kind of opposites. He wanted me to kind of follow in his footsteps. He was a scientist. He was a chemical engineer. And he always wanted me to follow in his footsteps with science and all that stuff. And back then, I hated science, which is so weird, because these days, science is my hobby. I read and watch TV and all that about science constantly. I could talk to you all day about quantum mechanics and string theory, which is quantum mechanics. White holes versus black holes, the holographic principle, all that stuff. And that's stuff that I just do for fun. My dad would absolutely love it now, but back then he was just always, why can't you do, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not like you. I love music. I love art. I love expressing myself and all that. I don't want to slave away at some job just because it makes really good money. I want to pursue the things that are closest to me. And that he wasn't too thrilled with that. But we did clash some. We eventually became friends later in life, thankfully. But yeah, relationship wise, I was never really close to my dad very much. My mother, we've always been friends for the most part.
And
Yeah, so and I don't have any brothers or sisters.
did it have any issues of you becoming a musician?
Oh, did my parents have any
Yeah,
issues?
yeah.
Um, yes and no. For the most part, no. They just let me do whatever the heck I was going to do as long as I didn't get in trouble or anything. Um, my dad was not fond of the choice that I made
Hmm.
for the type of music. For him, he was boomer. So, and I don't say that in the derogatory sense. He was from the baby boomer generation, and he was very into stuff like Mamas and the Papas and the Beach Boys and stuff. And so his son listening to Pantera, Metallica, all that the type
Yeah.
stuff. There was at least one time I remember that I guess he was in a bad mood, but he popped in while I was in the middle of recording one day, and just goes, "That is just disturbing," and he slams the door, and I'm like, "What the heck was that?" But that was kind of the guy he was. He was, for the most part, kind of angry, but um, he was, as I said, as both my parents were, but don't get in trouble. You can go do whatever you want as long as you don't get in trouble. Don't hurt anybody, and don't call us at 3 in the morning to bail you out of jail. And other than that, he's just like, do whatever you're going to do, man. And so, it was um, it was an interesting relationship.
I can
And
imagine because here you are playing like Nine Inch Nails, Rob Zombie, Static X, and Serge Tankian, System of a Down. Who doesn't like Serge Tankian? Who doesn't like it?
he's got an interesting voice. He really does. I love their creativity. It's just, I don't know. It just seems like this mishmash collective. Um, I don't know how to describe it. They've got this sound that is very distinctive. It reminds me of Alice in Chains, not the sound
Mm.
style, but the fact that it was just so original. I mean, I don't want to say it's completely original, but it's very close to being original. They did their own thing with it, and they stood out like the Chili Peppers. They just have their own style that no matter what, what that the band as soon as you hear the music. It doesn't even have to be famous. The attitude and the style and the sound of the music.
I noticed you like Type O Negative. Now that's funny because you're not the only one that likes Type O Negative. I had an artist on my program by the name of Nadia Kotis, and she loved Type O Negative that she literally released a song by them, like a cover song.
Oh,
So they
right.
must be pretty good. Yeah. Um, but
Which song? Which
oh
song did you do? Do you remember?
no,
Oh, okay.
I should remember because I know she's going to watch this episode and say, "Well, Chris, what are you talking about? You know the episode, you know."
Well, she
But
can contact me and let me know. It's not a problem. But yeah, I love Typo Negative. I love their attitude the most. Their kind of FU attitude, but in a very thoughtful, intellectual way. Even if they were crashed, there was some thought put behind what they were doing. So I've always appreciated that, and the fact that they were, you know, well, I was gonna say they weren't mainstream, but they kind of were eventually. But they were, kind of mainstream, but they just didn't care. And I love that about them. They just did their own thing. They did not care, and they would stand up for themselves in their disbelief or non-belief or whatever in the industry and all that. I love Typo Negative. They've got a really great attitude.
so is Nine Inch Nails, Rob Zombie, Static X, are those all your musical influences that you literally used that shaped your sound for Psycholand?
Well, there's a long list of different artists that have shaped the sound. A lot of the music is put together by Mr. Severe. he writes he basically writes a lot of the music and sends it over to me, and then I'll if it needs to be, I'll restructure it, add sound effects, vocals, some guitar. Then I send it out to other people to record their stuff and so on. I've written a few songs in Psycholand, but a lot of the music is written by Mr. Severe. What was your question again? I'm kind of spacing out. What was your question again?
Yeah. So Nine Inch Nails, Rob Zombie, Static X, System of a
Oh,
Down,
right.
were they the biggest musical influences, and how did they shape your sound?
Um, Yeah, Nine Inch Nails is probably the biggest influence, not just because it's one of my favorite bands, but Mr. Severe loves Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails and all that. So I hear about Nine Inch Nails and the different Trent Reznor stuff that he's doing, side projects and all that. I hear about it constantly, which, thank God I love Nine Inch Nails, Um, so that band is what uh, shapes the sound the most. And I bring to the table a lot more heavy metal than Severe does. I grew up, like I was saying, I did Pantera stuff and all that, but my favorite to sing was Metallica and Rob Zombie because my voice sounds very similar to that. Plus, I love the music. So a lot of that shaped Psycholand, but there's also other influences too, like Switchblade Symphony and believe it or not, Sarah McLachlan, um,
Wow.
Concrete Blonde. Yeah. Oh, I do vocal warm ups to Sarah McLachlan songs all the time. She brings out something in my voice that sounds really good.
Okay, well then, what about Amy Lee from Evanescence? Do you use any of her type of music to influence you?
I think that if I were to take anything from Evanescence, it would be the symphonic elements. I love her voice. I wish I could sing a lot like her, but yeah, I think if anything, it would be the symphonic elements and maybe some of the style. But I don't think Mr. Severe has her in mind when he writes. He's almost always got Nine Inch Nails in mind.
So, what is your song process? For instance, your song America, which was just released last year, it's a Ramstein cover. Like all of these are covers. So, why America by Ramstein?
Well, America was, like I said, done in response to the Roe v. Wade being overturned. When that occurred, um, I was mad. I was so mad. And so when a certain somebody got elected the first time, I was pretty upset. And this is before we did Psycholand. And we ended up doing "I'm Afraid of America." It was in my last band. Me and Severi did "I'm Afraid of Americans" by David Bowie. And this time around, I wanted to do something similar, but I didn't want to repeat what we did before. So I decided to do Rammstein, but I didn't know German at all. you know? And I mean, the only other language that I really know, and like I know bits and pieces of Spanish and French, but not enough that I could actually hold a conversation. And so eventually it took me like 6 months to find somebody to teach me German, and it was actually a complete coincidence. I ran into my friend Evie or Eva, sorry. She's she does artwork and stuff like that, and she's phenomenal. Anyways, so I was we connected on her artwork and on Instagram, and as we got talking, she lives over in the Netherlands. She's Dutch, and she was telling me about how she knows I think she can speak like 4 languages, which is impressive to me because I can barely handle one.
Wow.
And so as we got talking, she told me that one of the languages was German, and I was like, "Well, can you teach me some German for the Rammstein song?" And she, said that, of course, she said her favorite band is, or one of her favorites is Rammstein. So um, I didn't, and I still don't, of course, have the patience to learn a lot of German just to do the song. So what I ended up doing is sitting down with her over the course of a couple weeks, and I wrote down each line phonetically. So whatever the sound was in my ears, I wrote it down. So it was like the first line is "Wenn getanzt wird, will ich fuhren." I probably butchered that, but so I didn't write it in the German language. I put VENGANG, just spelled it out exactly how it sounded. I did not spell it in any German whatsoever. Um, and then I just basically went over those lines, pronouncing them over and over again. And I would check in with Eva, and she would kick my ass if I, sorry for swearing, she would kick my butt for if I messed up on anything. I actually almost messed up on one line, and dude, it would have been bad if I put it out. The first line, wenn getanzt wird, will ich fuhren. Fuhren, yeah. And I was pronouncing the last word Führen. And she goes, if you ever pronounce
Urine.
it like that, I will kick you.
That's
And
funny.
I didn't catch it at the time. I'm like, oh dear God, oh God, I would have made so many people mad. Thankfully, and she called in one of her friends too who lives in Germany. So I checked in with both of them to make sure that everything sounded exactly the way it needed to be. And then it took me about 10 months to get the German down. I want to say fluently, but I tend to butcher a lot of the German when I say it, and so I had to do so many takes just to make sure that I didn't screw anything up. But yeah, we did that song because of Roe v. Wade, and honestly, the way things are going these days, I think it's a very appropriate song for our times.
So, what did you think of working with Cat Hall in Depeche Mode cover "People Are People"?
Kat is phenomenal. I love her. She is awesome. She's a really good friend. Um, I met her down in Texas when I was living near Dallas, and she was living there down there at the time too. And she was performing for a band that she's actually still performing in called Dissonance. And I've always loved her voice. She's got this voice of, for your viewers, if they've never heard her stuff, it's very similar. Well, I don't even want to say similar. It's it's a well, okay. It's a lot like quality wise. I would say it's a lot like Sarah McLachlan or Switchblade Symphony, but that doesn't even encompass the entirety of her voice. She is really good. I've heard her do all kinds of things with her voice, and she's phenomenal. I love working with Kat. I wish I could do it more often.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I see that you had released an album 2021 called Clock Tease.
Mhm.
Now, Mr. Kane, I want to ask you. So every time I ask an artist about songs, um, if it has to do with any experience. For instance, I don't know if you're familiar with Brad Reynolds, lead singer of Imagine Dragons. Well, they wrote a song called Wrecked, which is based on the death of his brother's wife, Alicia, who died of cancer. So he wrote a song called Wrecked.
Mhm.
So, can you tell me about the songs on Clock Tease? For instance, what is
Mhm.
the experience for them? For instance, Gaslight,
Mhm.
Something Wicked This Way Comes. What's the experience for those? What's the experience of Gaslight? Were you
Um,
gaslighted when you were growing up or something?
there are there are three songs on Clock Tease that have to do with the same scenario. Um, I went through a very bad breakup where I got cheated on, and it was by someone who I never thought would do it.
Hmm.
And we had built up a very strong relationship, and we'd built a life together. And basically, after she cheated, everything fell apart. And so, Gaslight, Mr. Suicide, and You're the Worst are all connected. Gaslight was basically, it was about the time in that relationship where I pretty much figured out what was going on. And although I didn't have proof, and basically I had to watch everything that we had built up burn down, and it really wrecked me for a long time. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, I actually had this album that we were working on to get a lot of that out of my system. So I used that song and then Mr. Suicide, the song for that, and the song for You're the Worst to get a lot of it out. Gaslighting was basically, or the Gaslight is basically, about all the lies and the betrayal and all that. Mistress Suicide was a really hard one for me. That was basically around the same time, and I was helping raise kids and all that, and so I really wanted to leave, but I didn't want to disrupt the whole family life, and it was a really tough decision. And I ended up having to leave because of a lot of things. And but the struggle is in that song. In that song, it's about having to hide suicidal ideation and the desire to give into that when things are really hard. And eventually, it got to a point where I felt like, because I had to hide all of that, around the kids, around her, and all that. And it got to a point where I started feeling like I had a mistress on the side, that it was something that I was hiding and keeping away from everybody, but would always hit me at night, So it was like I was being visited, it was a little dramatic, but, that's basically what was going on. And then You're the Worst is kind of what happened afterwards, losing myself in drugs, alcohol. Well, drugs. I didn't really lose myself in alcohol. Mm-hmm. Anonymous situations, if you know what I mean. Things like that. And that song is mostly about no matter what you do, and no matter what you do to try to fill the hole, you'll never be able to do it. And it's mostly because that hole is a state of mind. It's until you can get out of that state of mind, there's nothing that's going to be able to fix that. And I kind of relearned the hard way. As for Something Wicked This Way Comes, that one is just. It's basically my love for goth girls, there's really nothing more to it. It's just I imagine somebody who, was gothic, that was hot, and just kind of wrote out a fantasy, but not. Let's see, how do I put it? Just a thought in my head, really. It was nothing really emotional about it, or no life experience behind it or anything like that. It was just kind of a song to write.
Well, have I got something for you? So my friend Stella Wembley is an artist from the UK. She's Italian, and she's a goth. And I'm going to be posting her episode on Saturday, but she's fully goth. So I hope you enjoy that episode. But I would reach out to her, but I wouldn't use the word come because she's not really in that position. But she is gorgeous. I'll give you that.
Understood. Yeah. No, I tend to write raunchy stuff occasionally. I've got this other project I'm doing music with called Fuzzy Death Machine, and almost all of that is raunchy. So I mean, with Psycholand, I try to lean more towards emotional stuff than humor. Although Christmas on Uranus was very humorous, very. I usually when I'm not a big fan of Christmas, and so any chance that I've gotten most of my life, I've written Christmas music that about things that you would never write about when it comes to Christmas music, and so I occasionally will write that kind of stuff for the heck of it. It's fun to do.
Well, don't tell her I told you. Just reach out to Stella Wembley. She's a pure goth. Everything about her is goth. She loves goth. She does goth. She's 33. She's Italian. She's in the UK. So when the episode's released on Saturday, because it's my birthday on Saturday, so I told her to
Oh,
release your album.
happy birthday!
Release,
I just had a birthday a couple weeks ago.
thank
Right
you.
on.
So just yeah, but reach out to her, but don't let her know I told you. So but you guys might work out. I don't know. I don't know anything. But I'm looking at this other song here, and I know about the Me Too movement. What's Men Too movement? So is there
Oh,
something you want to
hashtag me
share or
too.
no?
It's kind of a criticism track. Um, I guess you could say that's a little political too, but it's very subtle.
Mm,
All it is, and it's just a simple message that I'm 100% certain nobody will ever get.
mm,
But the message behind that is kind of the whole Men Too movement got left behind, got left
mm,
out in the cold, and the whole track is basically just the sound of snow with what do you call it? Morse code that spells out PTSD over and over and over again, and it's for like 6 minutes and 18 seconds or whatever, and it's basically corresponds with the day or the month and the day of something like male suicide awareness. Or I completely forgot what exactly. It was a men's issue, but I believe it was men's suicide awareness. And the whole track is basically just kind of a quiet little, you know, guys have emotions too. And a lot of, it seems like, I don't know what it's like in other countries, but it seems like here in the US, there is a lot of misandry that's on the rise. And I honestly have a feeling we're about to go into another battle of the sexes
mm,
if we're not already in it. Uh, for those of your viewers who are not as old as myself or you, back in the 90s, there was a lot of battle of the sexes going on. Men and women, especially in stand-up comedy, were doing a lot of anti-women or anti-male jokes and everything. And I I loved it, to be honest, because I thought women really needed to have more of a voice back
mm,
then. I got tired of in the 80s all these anti-women jokes. The stupid blonde jokes, or the why do women, I'm not going to go into all of it, but the why do women wear big hoop earrings, et cetera, et cetera. And it used to make me so mad as a kid because they were talking about my friends, they were talking about my mom, people like that. They're women, and it bothered me um, to such an extent that I stopped watching a lot of stand-up comedy because of
mm,
that. And so when the battle of the sexes with comedy started kicking up, women started becoming more prominent in the 90s in stand-up comedy. I was all for it. I was like, heck yeah, well, I wouldn't say heck, I would say another
mhm,
word, but yeah, heck yeah, man, do it. Absolutely. Get out there and do it. And so after a while, the whole Me Too thing came about, which I was all for, um, and I still am. But the problem that I've had is that a lot of the attitudes now seem to be, I seem to run into a lot of attitudes where men are expected, again, here in the US, I don't know where it was like other places, but men are expected to be the strong, silent type.
Hmm.
You're not supposed to have emotions. If something it's kind of like the attitude that I grew up with when I was living in Texas in the 80s. Boys don't cry. You get upset, suck it up, or I'll give you something to cry about, that whole thing. And it's like that whole mentality has kind of come back. And it's not without good reason, though, because there is a lot of guys here in the U.S. at least, who treat women horribly, and that
Mm.
bothers me even greater than anything else. There's a lot of misogyny that's on the rise in the last, God, I don't know, like 10 years, even worse than it was. And um, I was very, God, I keep saying was, I am very for the Me Too movement. But my problem is that the suicide rate for men, at least here in the US, is higher than for women.
Hmm.
And that tells me something. That tells me that there are psychological situations that need to be addressed, through therapy and things like that. But I believe that a lot of men see therapy as weakness, or I go to a therapist. Oh, that means I'm crazy. No, it doesn't mean you're crazy. It means you got some stuff to work out. And so that's where I'm kind of coming from with the men too, because for a short while, #Men Too came about after Johnny Depp got abused by what's her name? I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. They went to court and all that, and then suddenly #Men Too came up, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, I'm all for that too. Men need to talk about the problems, and there's plenty of men who get abused in various different ways, and so yeah, I'm all for it. Talk about it, get it out and tell people about it and work through it and all that. But then it just kind of went away. And that bothered me because I don't look at people by gender. I look at people as human beings. And so in depression and psychological issues are not gender specific, you know. And I believe that if more men were socially allowed to express themselves, even if it's just a little bit, hey, I'm sad. Hey, this has got me down. This is making me upset. I need someone to talk to. I think if there was just a little more of that, there would probably be a little less misogyny, but that's just my opinion and all that. But yeah, like I said, it's just a very short, well, not short, 6 minutes long, but it's a kind of a subtle way of expressing that feeling. That and me and Mr. Severe are huge fans of the how they used to put together albums back in the 90s, where they would always have that hidden track. I loved that concept. But you can't do that in the digital age anymore. It's just all the tracks are listed on the website, on Spotify and all that stuff, and you know what you're getting. So the Men Too one is actually kind of our way of doing a hidden track of sorts, where we just kind of did a long period of what it sounds like silence. You have to actually turn up the song or the track to hear everything going on. So you'll hear up until Thanos, which is the title on the album that's spelled backwards. It actually kind of looks like Sanskrit type spelling. Or sounds like it rather. But anyways, so it got all the way up to that. And then it basically goes to #Men Too, which is supposed to basically go, and then all of a sudden it sounds like the music stops. And then you get Christmas on Uranus at the very end, which is kind of like a hidden track, but not. It was just something to do. I don't think we're going to repeat that again on our next album, but it was something interesting to try out and see if it worked. And yeah, it was kind of meh.
Yeah. Talk about Mr. Severe. So I know it says that you are the vocals and guitars of the band, which is great. But what in the heck is a symphonic hullabaloo?
When I put that in our bio, that's our description of our roles in the band. You know how it ranges from, for me, vocals, guitar, and the symphonic hullabaloo. I can't remember everything else. Being bipolar and all that stuff. That goes back to the way Typo Negative used to approach stuff. And I hate saying this, but also Marilyn Manson. I'm not a big fan of his anymore. But I love the approach of them not taking things seriously. And so I decided to not take our bio completely seriously. And but I also, it was interesting as I was putting together the music, or as we were putting together the music for Psycholand, I noticed that things were very emotional. Just the collective collective songs, the feeling of everything was very emotional. And shit, I lost my train of thought. Hold on a second. What was I just talking about? Damn it, the emotional. Oh, right. Anyways, I'll just skip all of that. Basically, we put the, oh, that's right. God, I'm all over the place today. Sorry about that. I wanted to do with Psycholand. I really wanted to be open about mental health. Our mental health problems, and because I want to normalize, I want to be a part of the normalization movement for mental health. And so, like I've got bipolar, Mr. Severi's, his situation is, depression, anxiety, and he has autism. Ronan is a recovering addict, things like that. And so we're very open about it. And so I basically just wrote out, instead of just, I'm vocals and guitar, I wrote out vocals, guitar, and then added mental health and a few jokes. Symphonic Hullabaloo, I thought just sounded good when I was writing the bio. It actually, I forgot that hullabaloo means that you're making a bigger deal out of something than it really needs to be. And so I joke that, I make a bigger deal out of adding violins than it needs to be. But after I realized that what it meant, or reminded myself, I was like, I'll keep it in there. It sounds funny. So yeah, we don't really take a lot. I mean, we take our doing everything in our approach seriously, but we try to add a lot of humor to things, and not be so not have a proverbial stick going up where about everything.
Well, with everything you went through, I know that you have to deal with your mental health. It says here that you have PTSD and bipolar. Where did the PTSD come from, and how long have you known that you had bipolar?
Oh wow. Oh god.
Are
Well,
you okay with sharing it?
oh yeah. It's I'm just trying to think of where to start. I did not have a great childhood. We moved around a lot, and so I was the new kid a lot at various different schools. I've lived all over the United States. The Midwest, the East Coast, West Coast, the South, everywhere. And so I got messed with a lot, and it. I wish I could really convey the scope of how badly I got messed with, because not everybody, almost everybody has at least one bully that they had to put up with, in a small way or a big way, growing up, in elementary or junior high or high school. I had a lot more than that. Um, when I was living in Texas, I got a lot of harassment because I was born in the North, which is
Mm.
so weird. This is like one of the dumbest things to be tribalistic about. But because I had just moved from Colorado and I had been born in Indiana, I was a Yankee. They still use that term back in the 80s in Texas. I was a Northerner, so I got messed with big time. And in the various different ways they messed with me, I don't really want to go into it. Left me with a lot of mental and emotional scars that I'm actually still dealing with to this day. Um, a lot of therapy. I had to go through a lot of therapy. So a lot of my PTSD is from that. Um, some of it is from my father. Not a lot, just a little bit. Um, and of course being cheated on too really messed me up, but a lot of my PTSD does have to do with childhood and being treated in a not so great way. Being bipolar, I did not know that until like like 8 or 9 years ago, I think. I had been going to therapy for a while, but I'd never really gotten diagnosed on that. And actually, was interesting as I had gone to a temporary therapist until something at this other place was getting situated. And I only saw the guy for like 5 or 10 minutes, but I was talking about a lot of what was going on in my life and in my head. And he asked me a bunch of questions, and I finally cut myself off, and I was like, "What do you think this is that's going on in my head?" And almost every therapist, whenever I've talked about things like that, they usually want to know why. I want to know, which bothers me. But my response is always the same. It's because I want to know what's going on. So when these things happen, I can always go, "Oh, that's the bipolar stuff. Okay, I've got a wrap on that. I know what to do on that. It's not a problem." Um, so, he asked me that. I told him that. And so he goes, "Well, my guess, you need more testing, but my guess is that you're type 2 bipolar, which
Mm.
is basically more of the depressed kind, or at least for me it is." I don't, I mean, I used to have a lot of mania when I was a kid. I don't know if I was born with it or developed it. I think I was born with it. I used to have a lot of manic episodes, a lot of anger, um, a lot of just, "Hey, let's go do this really wild thing. And I have no money and barely any gas in the car, but we're going to do it anyways.
Wow.
And so eventually I grew out of that, thankfully. A lot of times people with PTSD, or not PTSD, sorry, bipolar issues, they've got problems with like gambling, drinking, drug abuse, and it isn't everybody who does that isn't necessarily bipolar. But when you're in a manic state, it's basically you feel like you've got all this energy, like you're on top of the world. Every idea that you have is the greatest that you've ever had. Things like that. And of course, people can get in trouble with that. For me, though, I don't really get that anymore. I used to get that as a teenager, but now I have to worry about overspending sometimes because every now and then I'll see something and be like, "Oh God, I want that so bad." But I don't really have the desire to like drive to Vegas at 12:30 in the morning to go gamble or anything like that. So my bipolar isn't like devastating like with some people that I've seen. Feel sorry for people who've got full blown bipolar because that's got to be a horrible way to live.
You said that you got PTSD because of the bullying you received. I was bullied back in public school and high school, but I never got PTSD. It has to be much deeper than that.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was a lot of people,
Mm.
and I would say, well, it was definitely every day, and at least 5 to 20 people, usually per situation. I got ganged up on a lot. I got beat up a lot. Um,
Same here.
it and it lasted from about third grade until 10th grade.
Well, that's interesting. It started for me in kindergarten, and I was supposed to be in high school for 5 years, but I was in there 6 years.
Yeah,
Um, I just, I just couldn't deal with all the people, and I made new bullies in high school. I had one guy who threatened to kill my dog and kill my family and stuff like. Oh my
Jesus.
god! So, but I survived it. Here I am. Um, so knowing that you had PTSD and bipolar, and then you met Mr. Severe, who has depression, OCD, and autism, which is interesting, and Ronan, who has depression and recovering addict, and then the bassist, who's unknown, um, has other issues. Um,
You probably don't want to read that out loud.
no, so you got all of them together to create this amazing group. Do you ever share with each other the sort of mental illness you have and how you deal with it,
Oh,
or is it just yeah?
oh yeah, we're all really good friends. Me and Severe have been friends actually before, way before Psycholand. I met him when I was doing my last band. He really liked the music, and so he asked to remix a few of the songs. Oh, sorry, my cat's over here meowing. Um, he wanted to remix a few of the songs, and I almost said no
Mm,
because I just at that time I had put out a third album, and I was really burnt out, and I really didn't want to have anything to do with music at the time for a while. I wanted to take a long break. And I was kind of in a mood at the time, and I almost said no, but I thought, well, maybe we could put out a remix album or something like that. So I tossed him a song. I was like, okay, well, show me what you can do with this. And what he sent back was just way better than the original song. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, here, try these songs. And most of them that came back were just amazing. And and I knew like from the get go that if I didn't work with him, that I was going to regret it. So I tried to bring him into that band, but it didn't really work out because everything was kind of falling apart. So after I left that band, I started up this other side project. Actually, Psycholand was going to be the side project. I started this other band, and I was just going to be just straight rock and roll type stuff. And one day, he comes to me with a bunch of demos, and this is such a strange story. At least it is to me. He came to me with a bunch of demos that he wrote, and he wrote these demos for this one chick down in Australia. They were going to put together this musical act, and she flaked on him like completely. And so he sent them to me, and he was like, "Can you do you want to do something with them or whatever?" And I listened to them, and almost every one of those songs that he sent me ended up on clock tees. You know, he sent me, Mr. Suicide, You're the Worst. Before I had added vocals and lyrics and stuff. And I basically said in different terms, "Are you freaking kidding me? She passed on this. I mean, this
mm,
is gold, man." So I was like, "Yeah, all right, let's do something with it." And so, like I said, that was going to be the side project.
mm,
But as we went along, I just started listening to the stuff more and more, just taking it all in, and I realized, no, this band that I'm doing, I can't do it. I have to do the Psycholand. I have to do this. It was just something that was pulling me to it, and so I quit the other stuff, and I basically dropped everything just so we could do Psycholand.
mm. Wow. I can't imagine what it was like um, to make it through the isolation misery of the COVID pandemic, and that's how you were able to get together with the group. But I can imagine, but even being with PTSD and bipolar, having to go through isolation and misery of the COVID, that must have been really taxing on your mental health.
Actually, because of my depression, I'm used to isolating.
Yeah.
Um, I've actually done it more in recent years than I did in the past. I used to be a social butterfly big time when I was a lot younger, but these days it's like, there's people outside. I don't really want to go out.
Mm.
So dealing with the pandemic, I mean, it was boring and sometimes depressing, but for the most part, I was kind of used to it. I actually got more depressed seeing other people go through it because a lot of people are not used to isolating, or being in an isolated situation. I can go for days, weeks, or months at a time without interacting socially with something like in person with somebody, and I'm fine with it, But I know there's a lot of people out there who aren't, so I felt more bad for other people. But yeah, it was a struggle. I see for me. I mean, a lot of it was like for severe. It was to deal with COVID stuff, and I think that they were doing uh, the stay at home thing for down in Australia as well. But yeah, he was getting through it with that. I was getting through the being cheated on, mostly more than the COVID stuff. I don't really talk as openly about it as I do the COVID and all that.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, that we used Psycholand and the music to get through a lot of that stuff.
Wow. So, how do you balance your personal lives with the demands of being in a band, even a virtual one?
Mm, well, I'm trying to think of what Severe and Ronan do. The bassist just does whatever. I don't really know much about what's going on with them, but well, Severe has, I think he's got a girlfriend. I think they're engaged. I can't remember. Um, and he's got a job and everything like that. I mean, everybody's got their own thing going on. It's not really that hard to balance. I think mostly because it is virtual. Um, a lot of the work actually falls on my shoulders because Severe will do the music, and he can whip up a song in like 1 or 2 days. It's amazing.
Wow.
I don't know how he can do it. I could never do that. It takes me months just to do one song, But yeah, he can whip up a song and then basically sends it off to me, and I spend months tinkering with it and
Wow.
getting everything set up because I'm a perfectionist. And then after that, I send it off to the guitar or to Ronan for the guitar, and he can knock something out within a day or two. So most of the time spent on putting this stuff together is me toying with everything, mixing everything, making sure it sounds right before I master the song and all that stuff. And then, of course, after that, I'm doing the marketing and promotion and stuff like that. So a lot of it, the busy work, falls on my shoulders, but shit, I lost my train of thought again. I didn't sleep very well last night, so I'm
Yeah.
spacing out here and there. I apologize for that.
Yeah, I can understand that. Same here. I gotta start going to bed early too, especially with the time change here.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
if you could collaborate with any artist, past or present, who would it be and why? And I bet you I know who it is.
I
Serge
would love
Tank,
to hear your guess.
Serge Tankian.
I would love to, but my first thought has been my very first thought ever since I was a teenager, and that would be John Christ, the guitarist for the uh, one of the original, well, the original guitarist for Danzig.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I have loved his guitaring God, since, like I said, since I was a teenager, since Danzig 1. Actually, I fell in love with his guitar playing more on Lucifuge, the second album. The whole blues rock thing was just amazing to me. And then after he left Danzig, I listened to his solo album, and it's just as amazing. His guitar work is just brilliant. So I've always dreamed of starting a band and having him as the guitarist. I would die and go to heaven if that happened. I would also love to work with Danzig. Um, who else? Sarah McLachlan, I would love to work with. Jeanette Napolitano from Concrete
What
Blonde.
if? Yes. Hi, it's Jimmy Page. Hi, we heard about your music. We'd like to write a song with you. What do you think of that?
What now? I'm sorry. What's going on?
If there was a knock on the door
Oh, gotcha. Oh,
and it
and
was
would I
Jimmy
work with Jimmy?
Page and says, "I heard your music. I want to work with you."
Would I work with Jimmy Page?
Yeah, if it was Jimmy Page and he wants to work with
Oh
you.
yeah, he's a legend. Absolutely, I would. I would work with a lot of people. If the project was right and I got along with the other person, then yeah, I would welcome doing all kinds of collaborations. But hell, I would love to do something with James Hetfield, not Lars Ulrich. I'm not a huge fan of his over the Napster thing, but yeah, there's a lot of artists I would love to collaborate with.
Um, so what song of yours holds the most personal meaning and why?
Probably Gaslight,
Mm.
for the reasons I spoke about earlier. Um, well, actually, Gaslight and Mystery of Suicide. There are many. I still can't listen to those two songs without crying. It
Mm.
brings back a lot of memories, a lot of which I don't really want to remember. But yeah, I would have to say those two songs.
It's very awesome. Thank you for the interview. I want to ask, so what's next for Psycholand? Any exciting projects or tours in the pipeline?
We are actually about to put out. Oh, I just sent this out a couple days ago to the distributor. We're about to put out a single, actually two singles. One for Doctor Who, the Doctor Who theme song, because Mr. Severe loves Doctor Who.
Me too. I love the
As much
David
as
Tennant era.
yeah, he talks about it a lot. And so actually, and he came up with his own version of the song, and then he erased it because he's got worse self confidence issues than I do. Now, mine are bad, but his are. I feel bad for him. And so he did it, and then he erased it, and I was like, "Why?" And he goes, "No one's going to like it. It's not any good." And I said, "Dude, do it again. Let's put it out. Let's just do it again." And so he did it, and I listened to it, and I was like, "Dude, we're putting this out. We're absolutely putting this out. I promise you, people are going to love this." And so, yeah, people are going to dig that. I know it will. I know they will. And the music is all him. All I did was mix it and master it and all that stuff. But I think I added like one sound effect. Ronan couldn't think of anything for guitar, so it's all him. And I'm actually kind of looking forward to it because I'm pretty sure it's going to boost his self esteem. I have a feeling it's going to be one of our bigger songs. And the other song we're putting out is by a band called, it's another cover song by a band called The Electric Six, called Gay Bar. And I've always wanted to do that song. I think, when was that big? I think it was big back in the 90s. But anyways, so yeah, it's just a silly, stupid song. If anyone out there hasn't heard it, it's just a silly, stupid song about wanting to take somebody to a gay bar. That's it, you know. And when it first came out in the 90s, being gay was still taboo. Being openly gay was still taboo. And so that's what I loved about it the most, is that during a time where it was just, shh, you don't talk about that, they were like, screw it. We're going to just put it out there. Whether any of them are gay or not, I have no idea. But even it actually doesn't really matter. It's just the message behind it is completely awesome. At least to me, it is.
That's awesome, my friend. Well, everyone, all their music will be linked down below. We are Psycholand. So they're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok under We Are Psycholand. There's
Mhm.
also a Spotify link to hear a lot of the music, Amazon, and you just have to just search for Psycholand, and Apple Music as well. They're also available on Pandora, iHeartRadio, Napster, Deezer, Tidal, Poseidon. Oh, sorry, Peloton,
Oh, Peloton, the bike
Peloton,
system thing. Yeah.
PlayStation, and many other major online storage streaming services. Okay, before we end the stream, Mr. Kane from Psycholand, could you please tell us what word of advice would you give to up and coming Psycholand and musicians and people who like to use the hullabaloo?
Uh, well, for upcoming artists, I would have to say don't listen to my advice because I'm an upcoming artist too. However, I have been doing this for over 10 years, not in Psycholand, but producing music and putting out, selling it, and all that for well over 10 years. And the attitude these days about producing music is much different than when I started out. I started out like around 2010, started selling stuff around then. And back then it was just put together an album and put it out there and so on. Nowadays, I keep hearing from experts online, the SEO experts and what else? Digital marketers, scam artists and all that, where they talk about how and this is kind of true, how the algorithms in like Spotify and all that favor constant music production, so
Mm.
favors putting out music regularly. And so the train of thought these days is, and I hear this from, like I said, experts, is put out as much music as you can. Your fans are expecting at least one song a month. So, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're going to lead to burnout doing that. I mean, if you want to, I mean, unless you want to just put out a really bad song, you know,
Mm-hmm.
really good songs take a long time, not just toying with it, but also figuring out the right words, how the right way to sing it, the right way to play that guitar riff, and all that.
Yeah.
And so doing, bam, 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 one after another, you're just going to burn yourself out. You're going to hate the process, and more than likely you're going to give up. So don't do that. If you can, then yeah, sure, go for it. But don't burn yourself out, man. That you're going to end up hating music, and it's going to feel like it's a job or a chore instead of something that's fun. And music is supposed to be fun. So I guess if my advice is don't listen to experts. Listen to people who've been in the industry, not behind the desk, but in front of the desk. The people who are in front of the desk, the people who play the instruments and sing the vocals and do, all the legwork. Listen to them. Don't listen to industry professionals unless they are like, someone like Rick Rubin or something. Then yes, listen to him absolutely. But these people online giving advice to bands these days, I'm honestly surprised there are so many bands out there, because it's a stressful environment now with streaming services and algorithms favoring mass and rapid production. So another thing I think I would say is don't get discouraged. Don't get into music if you want to see, how do I put it? If you want to hook up, okay, that's the nice way to put it. Don't get into music for that, because, or well, actually, no, let me back that up. Don't get into music to be famous. Okay, if
Mm.
that happens, it happens. But if that's your only goal, unless you're very lucky or have a lot of money, you're never going to make it. It ain't going to happen. The people who make it are the people who love it, and it isn't because they're good. I mean, yes, it is because they're good, but the important thing is longevity. They, I mean, when Metallica started out, after a while, not when they first started out, but after a while, there was like a bajillion bands who were trying to be Metallica. But are they around now? No, because they didn't last long enough. Metallica survived. They had the longevity. So my advice on that stuff is stick with it, keep going, even if it seems like, I mean, dude, Psycholand didn't even get a lot of attention until like the third or fourth year, and that's actually amazing. Because when I was in college, my journalism professor informed me of something that's actually very true. A presence of any kind takes at least 5 years, a decent presence. So you're probably going to be flailing around out there in the wind for several years, screaming into the dark. Am I making a difference? Are people listening? Do people even care? And my take on that, like gaining fans, for example, I go by statistics. That's how I like to think about it. Statistically speaking, like, okay, with my last band, I wrote almost all the music, and almost all the music was horrible. Okay, just flat out, I'm completely on the table and honest on that. It's horrible stuff.
Hmm.
But I still gained fans. And that told me that statistically speaking, if you keep looking hard enough, you're going to gain at least one fan, at least one fan. So go out and find that fan. But there are 8 billion people in the world. So odds are actually in your favor. There's going to be people out there who will like your stuff. You just got to find them.
That's true.
So I think that's the advice that I would give to up and coming artists.
That's awesome, Mr. Kane. Okay, everyone, Mr. Kane from Psycholand. Go check out the music, as I said, and links down below in the description or show notes. Mr. Kane is vocals, guitars. Mr. Severe is programming and drums. And Ronan is guitars. And the bassist is unknown as bass guitar. And it's a great band, so listen to them. Okay, thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Mr. Kane, for joining us today. Really appreciate this opportunity to interview. Okay, everyone. See ya.